it is key cards.
Welcome back.
So glad you could make it. Someone was on time this morning and sometime was late. But we have key cards. We are official Rebeldom rebels.
I'm back. I'm just clocking in for work.
Ka-ching! We have actually filmed this episode before. Should I
First
say
try.
we have not filmed this episode before because we did a whole episode last week and it wasn't recording, and by that stage we were just too tired to do it again. So we are here today with
7, 8, 9 on episode 2.
no
What about this episode?
6, 7, and 8
Oh, yeah, 'cause
on
I
episode 3. So, chapter 6, initial author's thoughts. In this episode, we have that 2-year flash forward that we're not quite sure what has happened in the time between, but this is now Rebecca's first meeting with Eric Dane. It is also the first time she crosses the boundary fence and the very first time that she sees the true nature of Eric Dane and his soldiers when she witnesses the murder of the young girl.
These are quite intense. I put notes all throughout every chapter. But not even like, oh my god. It was just like vibes.
It's giving death.
Like it just shows you the growth from literally the beginning of the book to where you are now as to what you can sort of expect in the book. Initially there's not like a lot of violence, like it's very like
Light,
in the
yeah.
background, you don't know about it. You're just like people are dead and you're like, okay, but this is like
Yeah, things start to happen.
she sees it now because she didn't see any of the death
Yeah,
before.
and I think she needed to really cement her, like, I've made the right decision, I've done the right thing, I've left everything behind to come and work for this resistance. It was almost like, well, let us show you what you're working for. And then there's the setup to meet Eric Dane at the cocktail party, which some people might think felt contrived, but remember that Rebecca's dad is working for Eric. So he would have perfectly primed her to say and do everything. He knew Eric Dane better than anyone. He'd made a study of him over the past decade that he'd been working with him. And so he was the perfect person to tell her how to behave and what to do to seduce him, basically.
Those scenes were so good. So good. I loved. That was one of my favorite chapters, but not my favorite chapter.
That's still coming.
Yeah.
That's coming next week.
Yes.
In the end of this chapter, we have another flash forward. We learn that they married 6 months later. Okay, so we have the 2-year gap, we have her meeting Eric, and then we have 6 months later, she's now married to Eric. This isn't like an in and out quick mission. This is she gives up her life.
Oh, and there was the scene here. In the opening of chapter 6, I highlighted was like a little bit of a foreshadowing for literally the very next page, where she's like, my heart hardened against him even more. And then you go on to say, why? Oh my god, that scene was so insane.
With the girl dying.
With the girl dying. And I noted in here as well, I was like, this paragraph let me know that this book was going to be unashamedly intense, but for a good reason. And I also said, you just seem to know when to put in specific scenes and where to write them into the story, just to like ensure that you're like captivated.
Dun-dun-dun-dun! I think
Yeah.
it's the reader in me. Pacing, I think you learn pacing from reading. So Dallas, have you
Yes.
got
There
anything?
was, yes, and you were like, I hear everyone sputtering behind me, trying to apologize, and I said, I love that scene so much, was when she sees Eric Dane at the party, and then she rebuffs him almost
yes.
immediately, and she walks away as if she like didn't care.
Yes, because at this stage, Eric is so powerful. He's the president of the new United States. He's like savior of the people, and she's like, new number, who does?
Yeah, but I'm busy, bye. I think if I had had coffee in my mouth at that moment, I would have spat it out.
I love that.
That was how I enjoyed that
Yes,
scene
and
so
it was
much.
his ego, because obviously her father would have known about his ego, so she played to his ego.
Yeah, it's like one of those scenes where you're like, I wish I wasn't a fly on the wall just to see his actual facial reactions in that scene, to be like, oh, wow. This was where I said that you were dotting them out just to remind everyone that she's not like in this love for the love of luxury. She's like, I became Mrs. Eric Dane, First Lady. It made me sick to my stomach. So good.
Dun-dun-dun-dun.
And these lines are dotted throughout these 3 chapters. They're like literal bangers. Do you
Little
know what I mean?
one-liners.
Oh, sometimes even just a whole paragraph.
Okay, chapter 7 is 3 years later. So she is now the First Lady. She has been the First Lady of the new United States for 3 years. She is married to Eric Dane, savior of the people, also murderer of many. And she's working against him, and now we enter the meat of the story. I always say the first few chapters are really a lot of backstory and a little bit slow paced, and I feel like this is where, if I could rewrite this book, I would probably start here.
These scenes were so intense. And now that you've said that you felt like the first few chapters were slow, I'd say that they're slow in comparison to these new chapters, because these new chapters are intense, especially the scene where she breaks into that office.
Yeah, where she gets getting her revenge. Notes for this one too. So I do love this. So she calls her life this chosen curse. And again, I go back to, in dystopia, you always have one person who is making a change, and it usually is a reluctant hero. So they foisted into this war unwillingly. Whereas Rebecca always said, I wanted to give her the skills to not only survive but thrive in this world. That's why the chosen curse is so important, because she chooses this life, she chooses to fight. Everything that she does is intentional. She's not thrown into a situation and has to adapt. She chooses everything, every step that she takes is a decision that she makes to get her closer to her end goal. And I think that's clear when she says the line, I'm married to the president of the new United States, and at some point I will have to kill him.
I highlighted that line as well.
Oh, yes.
And I said, I love the juxtaposition here.
Oh, that was intentional. So now we find out Rebecca's true intention. So everything that she's doing is to kill this man. Then we have Eric he catches her snooping, and she uses her sex appeal to appease him, which shows us they have a very physical relationship. Again, showing the lengths that Rebecca will go to make this work, to make it believable, to get the information that she needs for the resistance, because that's ultimately what she's doing. And then they head to Dancourt Plaza, and for this charity event where she bumps into her dad. We realize he's been working for Eric this whole time, and it ends off with her going to the office to steal information.
There was a name that came up before on the way that they were driving there. It says Quinn is driving, and I highlighted here. I was like, did you remember this character when you were writing Guardians?
I say last time.
You said you were lazy at naming characters, and you definitely don't remember when you were writing.
I'm super lazy at naming characters, so I reuse a lot of names.
And then I said that when you were building up to that scene, it was so intense.
Which scene? Oh, the break-in.
No, when she was like, leave it to me, Dad.
Oh.
And they were getting ready to go there. And I was like, oh, this is intense. Because the dad's not telling her that this is what's going on. But the build up to her actually breaking in, there was such an intense, the way that it was, the sentences were a little bit shorter. It was almost like there was you had started creating this race against time without anything actually happening. It was just a conversation. And you get to that point, you're like, oh.
Things are getting real. I'm staring.
I hope you did that zoom in again on your face.
Okay. I think one of the most key moments in the whole break into Eric's office to steal the information scene is the death of the security guard. It's the first time you see Rebecca kill. Up until now, you think, oh, great, she's working as a spy. She's working as like a counter, what do you call a counter spy?
She's like a double agent.
She's a double agent, yes. In this scene, she very quickly breaks the neck of someone who could potentially tell Eric that she is breaking into his office. And it shows this cold, it's a much colder side of her. I almost feel like at this stage, Rebecca's turned her emotions off.
Yeah.
Which I suppose to have a physical relationship with a man that you despise, one would have to.
Yeah, because you read inside her mind when you're reading her, and you don't get to the point when you're reading her that she's capable of doing something like this, and so quickly and so unemotionally.
Calculated.
She just does it.
Yeah.
And I highlighted, I said I was not expecting this. Where she says, holding his head in my arms, and in one swift movement, I put up and twisted, breaking his neck instantly. And then she doesn't even look back and mourn or anything. She just carries on with her day. Yeah. And I was like, oh, shook it.
And I've always said that the inspiration for Rebecca, she was very Sarah Connor from Terminator. And so not only is she, because she is a super soldier, the whole key line of the whole book is, in a war that begins at the end of the world, she will become the ultimate weapon. So although when we open the chapters, we see her as a young girl growing up, which gives her the incentive and the motivation you need to create a true hero, because she has to have something that she's fighting for. But I still wanted her to be badass, yeah, 100%. If she's fighting for something, she has to be completely committed. If you are going to stand in her way, she's going to take you out.
And can I just say, that scene after she breaks his neck, and then she gets into the office, and she starts going through his computer, and there's like That pull up is so intense. I don't think that I was breathing. I literally said I was stressing here where it says put it into the password. Because now you've actually created the race against time. People know that she's broken into the building. And now she has
The stakes are super high.
and she has a short time in which to do this task that she's been given and to get to that massive enter password. And I was like, I don't think that I was breathing during those scenes because I was reading so quickly on the page.
And then, of course, she doesn't know the password.
No.
So, and there's no way she's going to guess Eric's password.
That point where she was just like, you know what, nah. And then just clips it off the back of the PC and I was like, I'll just take the whole thing. It's like...
Which, again, she doesn't care if she gets caught. Or she doesn't care if he knows that something's been stolen. And also, there's a tiny aspect there that, again, Rebecca is prepared to die for this cause. If he does find out, now he's going to know, he's going to investigate. If he does find out that it's her, she is chopped liver.
100%.
So, but this information is so valuable that she doesn't feel that her life is worth more. Have we got anything else for chapter 7?
No.
Okay, chapter 8. So, in chapter 8, we have this covert handover of the information to Jeffrey, and we find out what she stole. Because when she stole it, she didn't even know what she was stealing. Firstly, Eric's lab to create new gifted soldiers is no longer working. We find out that it is no longer working because Rebecca's father works for the lab and he is sabotaging the procedures. For obvious reason, he doesn't actually want Eric to build his army any bigger and to become any more powerful. That being said, Eric has now discovered that there are people living within the new United States that are showing abilities that are similar to the soldiers that he has. Like everything, there's always going to be pirating. Someone out there is gifting people outside of Eric's, what would you call it, outside of his power structure. So now he has a list of about 200 names, which Jeffrey says realistically, given that is about 70 people, because there would be people that just have false reporting, etc., etc. 70 people that Eric is now going to hunt down to add to his army. It's the first time the word gifted is mentioned, so we no longer talk about abilities or procedures. From now on, they're gifted. And they're gifted with either strength or speed or the ability to heal.
When did you know to dot those differences in, like the growth of just those specific things?
Of what?
Like abilities to gifted. How did you know that this is the part where I need to start introducing this, like the rebeldom, and then...
Oh, so they just came.
Gifted.
They just came organically. So I didn't want to call them superpowers because it wasn't a superhero book. But I thought gifted, it just was a nice word. It came out organically, and then I liked it a lot better than what I'd been using previously, so I just continued to use it.
Smart.
Yeah, so smart. What a fluke. I have to go back to the Rebeldom at some point. More books need to be written in the Rebeldom.
100%.
It's such a vibe.
When this chapter opened, it was her at the door, being all sexual seduction.
Did it? I was
Yes.
at the door. Oh, yes, because she needs to distract him.
Yeah, because he was angry with her when she's met him, well, on the way to the party. He was angry with her on the way to the party. Then he was angry with her at the party. So your assumption is that he's still angry with her when she gets home from the party, even more so now that there's been something that's happened at his office. So my assumption is that, oh my God, he is going to, I don't know where I was going with that one. But I just assumed that he was going to be super angry when he came in through the door. And then she was like, sexual seduction. And then he was angry. And my assumption when he was angry was, oh my God, something is going to go down. He's going to beat her or something. Not because he thinks that she stole something.
Yes.
But because...
That's interesting because he's so evil, and you've just seen how brutally they beat that girl at the fence. So I suppose, and yet Eric is too polished and refined to actually get his own hands dirty, if that makes sense. And let's not forget, the one thing that holds true through Eric's entire villain story is that he does love Rebecca. Rebecca Davis is the one person that he just adores. Oh, we skipped over when she gave her fake name.
What was her fake name?
Mackenzie.
Oh.
She gave him a fake name when they first met.
Oh, that was when you were talking about fake names. When we were talking about Quinn, that's when you also brought in the Mackenzie.
Yes. So
Why don't we just talk about it now?
Fun fact. So in each of the first 3 books I ever wrote, I put one of my children's names in just once as like a little Easter egg. So when Rebecca introduces herself to Eric, she obviously can't say I'm Rebecca Davis because her father is Jeffrey Davis, who works for him. So she introduces herself as Rebecca Mackenzie. She's not Rebecca Mackenzie for long. She becomes Rebecca Dane 6 months later.
I mean, still no Lloyd though.
Okay, so now we know that there are these gifted people out there in the Rebeldom, and Rebecca is working with her father to try and bring Eric down. So here there's a huge shift in chapter 8 where Rebecca decides she's going to find these people first because she has opportunity, and she is going to create an army of her own.
There was also a scene in chapter 8 in the beginning when he's like, "You're my most valuable possession, Rebecca. I would kill to keep you. You know that." And I was like, it's giving Tamlin.
Yeah.
So even though this is written way before Court of Thorns and Roses, that persona is there. So if you're feeling like you need to punch some more Tamlin in the gut,
this is the book for you.
give it a read.
Dun 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 dun. Rebecca decides she's going to get these people, she's going to create her own army, and she's going to end this war for once and for all. Rebecca, by this point, I'm pretty sure is wanting her life back, or at least change. There needs to be some big change.
I literally highlighted this whole section because, oh my god, another one of those bangers. She's like, "I'm going to build my own army, I say assertively. My father jerks his head in astonishment. And then I'm going to end this war once and for all." And I was like, this whole section was just so good.
Yeah, I think it is definitely the tipping point. It is where all the backstory and all the build-up and all the goals have been established. And from now, I mean, chapter 9 is your favorite. The next chapter is Lloyd's favorite chapter for a reason. Like, there's a key scene. Rebecca is now taking serious action against Eric.
Yeah, because initially you don't know where or how she's going to get to that main goal. And now...
I don't think she knew either, which is why she was working for him. All she could do, right, is being his wife, she could feed information to the resistance. She could give them what they needed. She could tell them what was going on. She could warn them when Noosa were going to do raids on certain areas outside of boundary fences. But she couldn't actually do anything direct, like take action. Whereas now she has an opportunity to actually start to fight against Eric. And then, yes, next week we start with your favorite chapter.
Stay tuned for my favorite chapter next week on episode 4.
So next week, if you are reading along,
chapter 9, 10, and 11.
That's it. We'll see you back next week. If you like these badges, when the Legacy hardbacks come out, they will come with a badge.
Slap.
I know, it's going to be so exciting. We will see you next week for another episode of Rebeldom Revisited. Thank you for spending time with us. And if you have any questions, I don't think we've had a single question.
But I've had lots, so that doesn't
count. If you have a question, please pop it below so that we'll have something to answer.
Bruh, I'm clocking out for Rebeldom Revisited episode 4.
I can't reach.
Good thing I didn't keep you up.
I was here early. Okay.
You were here at 8:20.